obviously you talked about competing every rep and trying to get guys to do that. Have you seen that level of consistency?
I think there's been good competition, but then actually when you go against the offense, there's been a high compete factor on every snap. And that's what these guys got to realize is if I want to play, right, that's what I've got to prove, right? I can't just assume that something's going to happen. And that's really what every play in a football game is, right? You're competing in a one-on-one situation, whether it's defending your gap, working a pass rush on an O-lineman, and that's how I try to break it down is every play, all right, is a play of competition, all right? You're either doing your job or you're getting blocked. And if we can boil it down to that and guys just hate not winning, all right? I didn't win this rep, I got blocked or I lost my gap, whatever it is, then you come back to the next play and just keep on fighting. And so that's the mentality that we're trying to establish. It carries over into the position battles. But at the end of the day, too, these guys are fighting to help each other, too, because we know, we got to have a lot of guys ready to play. So I've seen it so far. But, again, it's only day 4, and it's a long camp, long season. So we just got to keep it going.
Like you said, only day 4, but a lot of new faces, especially on the inside. Anybody early on kind of catching your eye? Or, how do you feel about the progress?
I like what DeMarcus Elliott's done and come in. We lost, significant numbers there at the nose position. I think Juan came in and his weight's down from where it's been in the past, and he knows he's got to be ready to play more snaps. But I think getting D-Mac here, so he goes by D-Mac, he's come in and done a good job. And then I think CO's come in and learning the system, and so I feel better about that position than I did maybe back in December when it was who's going to be there, and then I think there's excellent competition. We know what Jerome Johnson can do, all right? Now you've got, in my opinion, you've got 4 guys. You've got John King, you've got Shamar Jones, you've got Gavin McCabe, and I think C.J. Person is 285, 90-pound guy, so I'm excited to see how that sorts itself out here as we move through camp in the early part of the season.
What about D-Mac really stands out to you?
He's not always pretty in what he does. He's not a great athlete, but is a high effort guy. And he's just relentless in how he plays. He just keeps on coming, and I love it. I think it can rub off on everybody. We all sit in there as a position group, in meetings and whatnot, and watch the video, and I just love how he gets after it, And he's a guy that's, going to continue to become more flexible and change his body and maybe become more fluid as he gets older. So just love his relentless nature and what he brings to the mix.
Any concerns so far through 4 days of things that you?
Well, there's always concerns. Just from a D-line standpoint, is we have a mix of some guys that have played, but if you look at the 10 guys that played 20 snaps or more last year, 6 or 7 of them are gone. So, and I'm a guy that plays a lot of people, so I'm glad that we have a Gavin Everett and an Alan Stallings and even a James Head that played about 25 snaps a game, and a Jerome Johnson. Who are those next 4 to 6 guys that are going to give us snaps? Because I know this, Jerome Johnson's a better player if he's playing 45 snaps versus 60 or 65 snaps. That's just the laws of nature, the laws of science, you know what I mean? So we've got to be able to keep him fresh with a John King, a Shamar Jones, a Gavin McCabe, whoever it is, maybe a C.J. Person, so he's playing his best football in a game late in the 3rd and the 4th quarter.
You talked about getting Jerome out of his, more vocal during the offseason. What was that process like, and are you seeing that in camp?
I think guys that generally don't like to open their mouth or kind of sit back and are not necessarily leaders but more followers, I think he realizes, hey, we lost a lot of guys, and to help my cause so I don't have to play 70, 80 snaps, I've got to coach these young guys up. And so I've seen it. That's not necessarily amongst the whole group, but I see him taking a guy or 2 on the side and coaching them up, and that's always the first step if you're not a natural leader. So I see it, it's coming, and everybody's going to do it in their own way too, so we've got a nice mix of some guys that'll open their mouth and other guys that'll take a guy to the side, but we're getting it in all kind of forms and fashions right now.
You said you know what Jerome can do. What does he do well?
Well, I think he's just very, very explosive. I think he's a very good run defender. Now, sometimes he gets antsy. He'll jump out of his gap to go make a play at times, where he's, sometimes got to rein himself in a little bit. I think just really, really good run defender. I think the thing that he realizes he's got to grow as a pass rush guy, and he's got the tools to do it. He's just not really had the confidence in it. So that's one area of focus that he's had here in the offseason, and I'm seeing it. I'm seeing some better things out of him in pass rush situations right now. So far, so good.
What makes a good pass rush defensive tackle? I think people think about ends a lot, but what makes you good rushing the passer?
Well, it depends what position you're talking. You know, those noses are going to typically see more double teams, so they're guys that really, quote unquote, have to push the pocket. They're not necessarily going to get a one-on-one. You know, the 3 technique is a guy that you're going to give a two-way go. You know, so guys that, you know, can get vertical, make those guards move their feet, and then have the ability and the athleticism to, you know, have a good counter move off of it. Take that a step further. People want to take away a good 3 technique, you know. So they'll start sliding the center that way. Well, now your nose has to be able to win that one-on-one matchup. So it's sometimes it depends on the team that you're playing, but 2 different positions, push the pocket with the nose, and your most athletic inside guy is definitely that 3 technique that you're giving a two-way go-to.
Coach Allen was talking about James Head and Gavin Everett being the guys who are really vocal. I mean, how much have they grown in that aspect?
A lot, and I think it's come a little bit more natural, I think, for Gavin since he's an older guy. You know, he realized he couldn't look around and maybe lean on some other guys. I mean, the guys that have been leaders, you know, were gone. And so I force-fed him. He never batted an eye, and he's doing a good job. It's been a little bit more work in progress with James because he still, you know, considers himself a young guy. And I'd say, hey, look, man, you played 25-plus snaps a game last year. You're not a freshman anymore, and we need you to do this. So he's come out of his shell a little bit, and like I say, not quite as vocal as Gavin, but night and day versus where he was a year ago.
Does that speak to his potential?
Absolutely.
James Head,
Absolutely.
Do that?
Absolutely. And James is kind of one of those, you know, he's not a real loud, boisterous. You know, some guys get themselves going by, you know, how they talk and what they do, and James is driven. He's a very, very driven individual, but it's just kind of a quiet inner strength that he brings to the field. So it's just not natural for him. Now, he's going to get excited. It's one thing, you go back and watch him on his high school video. I mean, he was a guy that, you know, when it came time to make plays and when he did make them, I mean, he's a guy that gets excited, and that's something you need on defense, regardless, whether you're front guy, linebacker, secondary. You got to have fun playing. You know, so when guys make plays, there's got to be an enthusiasm, a general fun of playing the game, and that's what I'm seeing out of a lot of our guys.
Thanks, Coach Hagen.
Yep. All right, guys. Yep.